Hello, White Menders. I've upgraded since we started this video series. We're going to talk about surviving the holidays, family drama, Mended Light. All right, so we know that we're bottlenecking right now. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Festivus, Hanukkah, solstice, whatever you got going on. It can be a stressful time. It can be a sad time. It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but sometimes not so much. Today, we're going to be talking about family drama. So I'm answering your questions that were submitted here by our Mended Light community. And here I go.
Hashtag let's do this.
For me, the hardest thing is trying to fit in with my family. Everyone else gets along just fine, but I am uncomfortable around them because I see that I'm being treated differently or even not talked to, or only if necessary. I don't know how to deal with it even though I'm an adult. First of all, to the person who submitted this question and to anyone else who feels like this, I'm sorry. That's a crappy way to feel around the holidays. It's a crappy way to feel any time of year that you are the odd duck, right? That you don't quite fit in, that everyone else gels and clicks and connects, and you're either mistreated or ignored, or it's just awkward and people don't know how to interact with you. I want to talk about a couple different scenarios here. One is the family is weird around you because they see you as the problem. Like, we all get along just fine, we're all good, but this person is the problem. Another is your family is basically loving, but you just don't click personality-wise, values-wise, beliefs-wise, whatever. In the first case, if the family sees you as the problem, in my field, in the field of family therapy, there's something known as the identified patient. In layman's terms, that's called the scapegoat. The identified patient is the person that the family puts most of the issues on and the problems on and blames them for them so that the rest of them can be functional and get along. Let me give you an example. A family comes into therapy and it's two parents and a teenage daughter. And the parents say, you need to fix our daughter. She's smoking, she's drinking, she's doing drugs, she's having a lot of sex, and she's graffitiing walls, she's defiant, she throws things, she breaks things, she yells. We would get along fine. Our family would be fine if it wasn't for her. But because of her, we've got all this stress, and we've got all this sadness, and we've got all this overwhelm. But if you dig a little deeper, the parents were having problems in their marriage. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of difficulty. And the child started acting out. Now the parents, instead of focusing on their marriage, can say, we would have a healthy marriage if it weren't for this person, if it weren't for this child and their behaviors. Now, I'm not saying it's always that clean, right? It's not always cause and effect. It's not always the parents are having marriage problems so the child starts acting out. Sometimes children who are autonomous beings make decisions and behave in ways that are rebellious or belligerent. Sometimes, even if the parents are getting along just fine. But the point of the identified patient is that it all goes on to one person. Now, if this feels like you, or you wish it were, or hope it could be, but it still feels like, no, I'm at fault, I'm to blame, it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, okay, what's really mine? What is mine to own here, right? What choices or behaviors have I displayed that I'm not going to pass the buck on to somebody else? This is me, and I need to keep my side of the street clean.
And I keep my side of the street clean.
Right? I need to take ownership of my things. And then ask yourself, what actually belongs to others, right? So if I curse out a family member because they were rude to me, you could say, well, I cursed you out because you were rude to me, but the fact is, we're all accountable for ourselves. You were rude to me. That was not okay. That was disrespectful and harmful. I cursed you out. I reacted and I responded in a way that doesn't align with who I want to be. There is correlation, but not causation, because no matter what this person does, you can always choose who you're going to be and how you're going to be. And when you fall short of your ideals, to take ownership and to assess and to make changes, you can do that. So if you feel like you're the identified patient, don't own anything that's not yours. But you can model accountability to your family by owning what is yours, by being responsible, by being accountable. Some people may dogpile on that and say, see, it always was your fault. In fact, they probably will, because if they're immature enough to treat you like this in the first place, they may just keep going down that track. But modeling accountability and responsibility shows people what that looks like and that they don't need to be scared of it. As long as we're engaged in what I call the hot potato of blame, where we're passing it along and nobody wants it, then people will continue to be defensive and continue to point to somebody else as the reason for their behavior, and you can break that chain. If you are the identified patient in your family, if you are the scapegoat, and if you feel safe to do this, air that openly. Hey guys, I'm going to own my crap. I'm going to take ownership and accountability of my stuff. It really feels like it's all getting put on me. And as long as it's all put on one person, we're not going to have a healthy family dynamic. As long as it's all put on one, or even better, as long as it's put on one person, I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel wanted. I don't feel safe. What if you have a basically loving family, but you just don't gel, right? Personalities, values, beliefs, things like that. I'm actually going to circle back around to what to do in that case, because we have another question coming up that addresses that head on. And that is, my greatest challenge is feeling like a captive audience to family members I usually limit contact with, but who take advantage of my presence at the holidays to push their own agenda. When you say the words push their own agenda, what I hear is my family sees me as defective. My family sees something wrong with my personality, with how I see the world, with how I approach the world. They see something wrong with my views, my values, my beliefs. And when I spend time with them, they take it upon themselves to correct me. And they may see it as an act of love. They may see it as we're trying to help you walk the right way and do the right thing. What I would say in that case is, guys, I'm an adult. Parents, you taught me. You taught me your values. You taught me your beliefs. You taught me your worldviews. It is now time for me to carve out my own. It's time for me to decide what I believe is right, to figure that out for myself. And I don't expect you to agree with me, but I do expect you to respect that I have that right. And then I'd say something like this: when you try and correct me for what I believe or how I am, what I feel from you is that I'm not welcome here as I am, that I have to change in order to belong as part of this family.
You're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday.
So?
So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us.
Whatever.
You can't sit with us!
And what I really need to feel safe here is for you to be, at the very least, tolerant of who I am, but I would hope you would be curious.
But then one day I was driving my little boy to school and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental."
I would love it if you would be curious and see if there's anything you can learn from how I see the world or who I am. Because it feels like when I come here, there is only one way of being. Now, some families and some family members, if they realize that they're hurting you or making you feel unloved or unwanted or unaccepted, they're willing to pivot. They're willing to learn. Others are not. And in those cases, I say something like, look, I love you. I need to feel safe with my own family. And if I don't feel safe with my own family, I'm going to limit my time here. And it's not a threat. And it's not a punishment for you. It is me simply taking care of me and looking out for me. And then when you say and do all this, let the chips fall where they will. And do what you need to do to feel safe, supported, loved, and respected. And that may mean that you're with your family and you just kind of say, well, my family's going to be the way they are. They see the world the way they do. Their perspective is limited. I still love them, but I don't need to take any of this personally. And some people could do that. I don't know that I could. I think my emotions are too near the surface, and I'm a little too tenderhearted for that. And so if it were me, I would probably limit my time with them until if or when they step up to help me feel safe. Quick question, as I'm answering these, for those of you who are watching, if you've got your own answers, if you've got your own experiences, share them in the comments below. What would you do? How would you respond to these questions? Because we love it when our community chimes in and when you help each other out. Also, I'm doing this on YouTube, but we've got an entire deep dive course on surviving and thriving during the holidays on our membership site, where Alicia and I take even more time answering these questions. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you some of the questions that we answer in that course. Feeling alone despite technically having family around. I think that speaks to a similar lack of belonging, right? Or at least feeling like you don't belong, feeling alone, feeling unseen. And this is my advice for relationships in general. Instead of being interesting, to be interested. What can you do to show interest in who these people are? I think of Encanto and then Mirabel and her sister. I can't remember which sister it is, the one who's perfect, right? And Mirabel has always seen her stuck up and snobbish, and she doesn't realize that her sister is carrying her own burdens.
Some of us have bigger problems, you selfish, entitled princess!
Selfish? I've been stuck being perfect my whole entire life.
And her own stresses and her own struggles. And she connects with her on a whole new level when she stops seeing her as a behavior that she doesn't like and starts seeing her as a person. So if you feel alone, even though you have family members around, what can you do to show greater interest and understanding and to learn and grow from your family members? They might just open up to you and there could be a connection there. Or maybe that's not the issue. Maybe the issue is creating found family, surrounding yourself with people who are like you, or people who, if they're not like you, at least they see and accept you for you and make you feel welcome. Looking for those people, finding those people, inviting those people over, spending time with them. And that still comes down to being interested, right? People open up to people who are interested in them. And so that would be my advice for that. And filling your time and filling your days with things that bring you fulfillment, things that you're passionate about. My greatest challenge is feeling like I have to participate in large family gatherings when most of that family is toxic. I'm an adult, so technically I don't have to go, but I feel that expectation from those family members as a weight on my shoulders. I fear their judgment from not wanting to be around them when I'd much rather stay home with my husband and 4 kids. Let's address first the fear of judgment. We grow up in our homes. They're our first little social circle, right, is our family. And we want to belong. And when we feel judged or ostracized by family members, it's painful and it's acute, and that is foundational. That goes deep inside of you. And so even as an adult, you can rationally say, I shouldn't care what they think. I'm an adult and I am secure with who I am, and I can choose who I spend my time with. And you can know that rationally, but emotionally, it very much feels like I'm betraying them. They're going to think less of me. They're going to talk crap about me when I'm not there. And I'd say that if you're going so as not to be judged, that's not the reason to go. If you're going to avoid judgment, don't go, right? Because if that's the case, then it probably won't ever be enough, because you'll show up, but your heart won't be in it. And then you'll say, what's wrong? And then they'll say, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you excited to be here? Why are you such a stick in the mud, right? If you're dealing with people who are judgmental and not understanding, then going isn't really going to change that. You'll probably just be judged for something else, right? Or seen as not measuring up for something else. I've had people in my life who, no matter what I did, they found something to find fault with. And that wasn't a me thing, that was a them thing.
Oh, and you want to know why I'm really in therapy? It is because I have spent my entire life feeling like a constant disappointment. And you want to talk about our jobs? You think my job is dangerous? I have walked through fire every single day of my life because of you. That is why I am in therapy, because nothing I ever did was good enough.
Now, if you would much rather stay home with your husband and 4 kids, do that. Do that. That serves you, that fulfills you, that sustains you, that supports you. What about, someone would say, duty? What about obligation? Here's what I would say. Your family raised you. They looked out for you, presumably in some way or another. Maybe not perfectly, probably not perfectly if you're even asking this question. Duty and obligation, your mileage may vary. I'm a big believer in the single evening. If there are people who I love but I don't feel safe with, if there are people that I care about but I feel triggered by, then I carve out, I'm going to give them 3 hours, right? You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this exactly. This is just an idea. I'm going to give them 3 hours. And I'm going to mentally and emotionally prepare myself that during those 3 hours, Aunt Harriet's going to say this racist thing. Uncle Jimmy is going to ask me why I'm not raising my kids X, Y, or Z way. I'm going to have to deal with this brother who won't shut up and talk nonstop about himself. I'm going to have to deal with this parent telling, like just all these things. Like, and you mentally prepare yourself. So when it happens, you're not stressed out saying, oh, I really hope this wouldn't happen this year. Instead, you go in expecting it to happen. And if it doesn't, you're pleasantly surprised. and you go and say, I'm going to give them 3 hours or 2 hours, right? Or whatever or a weekend, or, whatever your endurance level is. And the easiest thing to say is, I have my family. In your case, because you're talking about you have a husband and 4 kids. I have my family and we're creating our own traditions. And I have to find the balance between extended family and my own little nuclear family now. And you know what, guys, this is the best I can do right now. This is what I'm choosing to do. And I hope you'll respect that. And then when the judgment inevitably happens, recognize that their judgment has zero bearing on your worth. It has zero bearing on whether your decisions are right or wrong. And it has everything to do with what they value, what they have a low tolerance for, what they're judgmental and prejudiced about. And so when you get judged, let that be a reflection of the person judging you, not of yourself. The only time the judgment of another ought to matter is if you explore your values and who you want to be. And what they're saying is they're holding the mirror up and they're holding you accountable out of love. Or even if it's not out of love, but it's still something you need to hear. If that's the case, okay, like I've had people criticize me for our videos online. And sometimes I read it and I'm like, they're right. I need to make amends. I need to make that right. You've probably seen a couple of videos or comment or community posts where I've taken ownership about things where I'm like, listen, I didn't like the way it was said, and I don't like my intentions being questioned because I'm coming from a sincere place. But what you called me out on was 100% accurate. Thank you for that. I'm going to work on that, right? And when people call me out on things and I'm like, well, that's your value. That's not my value. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I'm not going to take that feedback because you're criticizing something that I did exactly what I wanted to do and said exactly what I wanted to say. And this is who I am. That's something else entirely. And you have to decide what to do with judgments, whether it's good advice and good counsel that's helping you to become the person you want to become, or whether it's merely a reflection of the biases, prejudices, and intolerances of the person who's judging you. My greatest challenge is my mom. She refuses to do bigger family events that my family wants to do. So I have to choose to either do what she wants or what my spouse and kids want. If I choose my spouse or kids, she makes me feel guilty and is like, oh, I guess I'll just be alone. And to clarify, she isn't restricted physically. She just hates everyone and everything. Sorry. It's not funny. It's sad and it's hard. I just didn't see that coming. She isn't restricted physically. She just hates everyone and everything. Okay, look, you are not responsible for her feelings. Here's what you're responsible for. Doing right by the people in your life as you see fit. There are people for whom it's never enough unless you do it their way, which includes how much time and energy and effort you give has to be their way. And their way could be pretty selfish and self-centered. She is insecure. She is lonely. When you say she hates everyone and everything, that probably includes herself, which is why she's so desperate to surround herself with people around the holidays all the time, because it's like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Or better said, you may have heard me say this on the channel before, if you don't love yourself, you can't accept the love of other people. You're like a bucket with a hole in it. People try and give you love and it just leaks out the bottom. So what your mom's trying to do is keep people around her to keep filling up her bucket. So hopefully you guys can fill it up faster than it leaks out. And she's so desperate to not hate herself. She's so desperate for approval and affection and validation that she's willing to sacrifice what you need and what your family needs, your spouse, your kids. She's willing to sacrifice all of that. And it doesn't make her a bad person. I mean, yes, it makes her selfish, but it comes from a place of pain. And it comes from a place of self-loathing. I have compassion for your mom. I feel sympathy for her as someone who's wrestled with self-loathing and who's trying to work on having self-compassion. All that said, you giving her exactly what she wants and how much she wants at the cost of what your family needs, your spouse and your kids, is not the right thing for her, nor you, nor them. Far better to tell her Mom, this is the time we're going to spend with you. We have our own traditions, we have our own needs, and we need you to see that it's not a reflection of loving you or not. And when she guilt trips you, okay. When she gets mad, okay. You know that she's going to. And if you feel so inclined, share a little bit of what I just shared. Say, Mom, this is what I think is going on with you, and I want you to try it on, right? You don't need to respond right now. I just want you to think about it. This is what I see. And you can tell her, you seem to be a very angry, unhappy person who is unhappy with almost everyone and everything. And it really feels like you don't like yourself, and that you want us to be by your side to distract you from that. I love you. And I'm sorry that you can't hold on to that. I'm sorry that the time that I am able to give you while balancing the needs of my spouse and my kids and myself and what I need, I'm sorry that that time doesn't fill you up. I hope that you can come to see in you what I see in you, which is someone worthy of love. And to feel that and to give that to the people around you. Now, she may get defensive. She probably will. She may tell you you're full of it. But you said what you needed to say. And she may sit with that for a while. And if she's got any humility in her, she might internalize that. And that could be helpful. But don't take responsibility for how she feels or how she acts. Give yourself permission to spend some time with her, to show her love, and then do what you need to do for your spouse and for your kids. You're not a bad person. You're a good person, even if she makes you feel like a bad person. My greatest challenge is that my family doesn't understand me and can't see me as an adult. In their heads, I am just a little hopeless girl, but now living with a bearded stranger. I'm the youngest in my family. My siblings all got married. 4 of them got married within 3 years of each other. And then it was a decade before I got married. I went through college and I went through graduate school single. And in their mind, with their values, if you're not married and raising a family, you're not really an adult. And that was really hard for me, because here I was in college and in graduate school, and I was doing real professional things, and I was learning and growing in incredible ways, and I was making a difference in people's lives and in my community. And I knew that I was growing into an adult. And when I went home, I was just treated like the pipsqueak little brother.
How can we trust him?
Come on, he's just a baby.
All I can say is that you have to carry here who you are. If you show up with the insecurity of you're right, I'm not really an adult. If you show up with the insecurity of I'm the youngest sibling, you didn't say you're the youngest sibling, maybe you're not. But if you show up with that energy, then sadly, they're going to feed into that. I started to show up with not a screw you, but definitely you guys can think whatever you want. I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing, and I know what I'm about and who I'm growing into. And it wasn't even saying that so much. It was how I carried myself. And I remember my brother saw it first. He was the first one to say, I can see that you're not my pipsqueak little brother anymore. You're a man. And I said, thank you. With some other of my family members, they didn't see it until I was graduated from graduate school, a professional therapist, married with kids. And it was years into that when they saw me at a presentation where I was presenting on step families and adoption. And they said, wow, you're all grown up. And I'm like, I'm 35 years old, because that's how old I was at the time. They said, yeah. I said, I've been grown up for a while, guys. Sometimes it's hard for people to move past the image they have in their head of who you are. That's on them. That's not on you. So keep here and hear who you are. And those who are able to see, those who have eyes to see, will see it. So this has been Family Drama, Surviving the Holidays Family Drama. We've got a course on our membership site called Surviving and Thriving During the Holidays, where Alicia and I tag team these questions together and go even deeper. In the Family Drama section, we answer questions like, the hardest thing I'm dealing with is being the last single person in my family and friend group, managing their questions about my love life and finding ways of bringing those conversations to a close when I get uncomfortable. So Alicia and I addressed that. My greatest challenge is navigating how to approach personally difficult conversations that my relatives like to have without doing too much damage to my own mental well-being or without driving a wedge between me and my relatives who have drastically different political views and views on life in general than mine. How to handle always being the person with other opinions and defending those opinions. Something I touch on in this video, but we go even deeper in that one. The hardest part about the holidays, of any holiday, is dealing with the stress of a dysfunctional family. My mother is extremely anxious and tends to lash out because of it. I spent a lot of Christmases around the perfect family, seriously loving and demonstrative and ideal in every way, and that's not my family, and it hurts me every year. My divorced family situation is my greatest challenge. It's very painful. Limiting time with family for the sake of my mental health without burning bridges. My greatest challenge is not entertaining the jealousy I have for people who have extended family to celebrate with. I have to work at being grateful and present for my very small family. So if you would like Alicia and my deep dives to those questions, sign up for our membership site. It is 50% off a monthly membership right now, where you get access to our live Q&As, our video courses, and our podcast. The link for that is in the comments below. How would you answer any of the questions that I addressed today? What questions do you have about surviving and thriving during the holidays? Let us know in the comments below. What experiences do you have to share? And what wisdom and answers do you have? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, folks, keep shining. We need your light.